Good afternoon, everyone. Some rubles and some gold. World Gold Council going to trace origins of all gold. And European Tree of the Year, Russia disqualified. El Salvador 1-year suspension, import tariffs all foods. Syria banning exports of foodstuffs to prevent food shortages. Where do you sit with gas prices? Sri Lanka inflation rate 49%. And this is me washing $200 worth of groceries in 2022. The new normal? Uncertainty is the new normal. War, pandemics, partisan politics, and Jerome Powell. There's a consistent sense of tension, fear, and anxiety since this pandemic. The stock market's gotten crushed, our national debt soared, and inflation pummeling most Americans. Since March 2020, gold's up 30% and silver doubling. Now we have Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo all forecasting gold well above $2,000 an ounce in 2022, and even potential price targets of $3,000. Call the Patriot Gold Group today before it's too late. Patriot Gold Group has the no fee for life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold and silver, and you may be eligible for the no fee for life IRA on qualifying rollovers. Call 1-800-356-4470 for a free investor guide today. And with the knowledge that Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold IRA dealer from 2016 to present, click on the link in the description box below for more information. And now on with the video. And starting you off with some 250-gram gold bars here, plus rubles in the background. And you might ask yourself, how much gold does Russia have in its reserves? Well, it looks like about 2,298 tons. That's from the World Gold Council, which swings us right over into the next bit of information here. The World Gold Council, what they're doing is trying to now work with the database to trace all origins of all gold. Shippers, miners, refiners, traders. A, to prevent counterfeit metal. Okay, that passes the sniff tests. Preventing Russia from moving around the sanctions, so they say in part. So where does that leave you and I, the individual? Okay, tracking and tracing gold on the 1,000-ounce bar, the kilo bar, for some of these deliveries from the London Bullion Metals Exchange or COMEX. Okay, that's its own subset. But what about after this cataclysm that we're about to experience in the economy globally? Are they going to want you to prove where you got that ounce of silver, you got that half ounce of gold? They're trying to do it with cryptocurrency right now. Chain of custody. Where'd you come in? Where'd you come out? How'd you get the money to buy it? Can you prove it wasn't laundered for the exit ramp to come back into fiat? Will it be the same thing, something similar for you and I going forward with, oh, see, they've already set the precedent here of tracing metals. So anytime it starts at the institutional level, you know eventually it's going to come right down here to Main Street. And the reason I said cataclysm in the economy, I mean, look at the European balance sheet and the Fed balance sheet, equivalent. And only the sky's the limit. Fresh all-time highs over in the Eurozone. And it's just like they keep debasing the currency. You can't keep printing and printing and printing and expect everything to hold. And now parts of the supply chains and raw materials are cut off across the planet due to these Russian sanctions. It's just not going to hold together, in my opinion. But here's a really interesting graph from Incrementum showing you how long it took to double the money supply. Fastest now, of course. It's the most money that's ever been created in a certain amount of time ever in history. But if you look back to the past from the year 1900, you notice prior to the Federal Reserve being formed in 1913, that was flatlined pretty much. And then as we crept forward through the Great Depression, World War II, and 1950s, superinflation of the 1970s. So I guess the question to ask is, how much longer do you think they can print with all of the blockades and upsets in delivery of everything before it does come crashing down? Precariously close right now, in my opinion. 2022 probably, but I'm not sure which month. Please leave your idea in the comment box below. What month of this year do you think it's really going to start to unwind and go into collapse? Because all this inflation, here's me washing $200 worth of groceries in 2022. We actually laughed at something like this the other day coming out of Trader Joe's, where we spent $100 and we literally come out with one bag of groceries. Albeit it was like vinegars and olive oils and different types of things like this that were more high end, but still, $100 for one bag of groceries, hurts in the pocketbook. Remember to get your fat. We got some duck fat and some goose fat as well. Now, Sri Lanka annual inflation rate, 49%. And we're quibbling about 15% here in the US, shadow stats. And wheat, again, I keep coming back to the food. Everything's going vertical on that. It's come back down a little bit since, but wheat, all eyes on the wheat. China accounted for 19% of the world's wheat consumption, 2020, 2021. That big red pie piece there, China. The rest, well, you have to start to look there and see where does Russia supply and where does Ukraine supply for all those others as well. And then you can start to get a good indication of where food riots are going to start first and which nations. You know, this headline from the beginning of the month here, China says they had the worst winter wheat harvest in history. I mean, you're talking thousands and thousands of years of history in China. It's a bold statement, really. So you can see why wheat prices hit the roof there too. So wherever you look across the planet, everything we eat is getting much more expensive. I'll draw your attention here to the map I'd made in 2017, calling the areas in red to go offline first in China. And sure enough, they are. Which is interesting. These same areas here that you see highlighted with the black lines going into there, there's something called a tariff rate quota, which was meant to limit the amount of imports coming in to China. And the World Trade Organization got involved after a complaint from the United States. And then where we sit today is those same areas are asking for a pass on these rate quotas so they can import food without the taxes to prevent the imports coming in. So the very measures to protect industries are now hurting and limiting industries where they're scrambling for food. Chinese are across the globe. And in these major wheat growing areas, which should be the thing that goes, wow, check the box, that's something huge. The wheat growing areas are asking for exemptions on the tariff quota imports for the wheat, even though they're in the area that grows the wheat, which means there's not enough wheat. So we get into this, downward spiral there as well. Food prices up and up. And if you're going to follow food prices, you're going to eventually stumble into Bloomberg here. Commodities. It seems like when the Fed raises rates and we're going into an inflationary spike, commodities seem to be the thing that increase the most in value, which means inflation makes you pay more for everything, including what you eat, what you drive, what you buy. And speaking of that, as I look through Reddit and a few other posts, here's somebody talking about sewing these silver coins into their clothing so they could walk around with it. Now, you wouldn't be able to get through an airplane with this, obviously, but traveling overland, nobody would be any of the wiser. So these are the kind of things people are thinking about already on how to move their wealth through what could be, population migration coming up in very short order. Because if you're going to carry that in a box, somebody's going to know you have that in a box. It's going to be easy to find, easy to see, but you have it sewn in that super heavy wool vest. You very well might just walk right by people and they would think you're penniless. Now, speaking of driving overland, let's look at the state of America's gas prices. State average gas prices. Darker the color, the higher the price. Highest price is in California, but I have seen prices as high as $9 out there. So it must be an average of the state, I guess. But if you're looking at places like Texas, still near $4, which is unheard of, Texas. So this is the second most important thing to keep our societies moving. Energy, right after the food. And then third would be the water. So if everything's rising to the point of almost unaffordability, then where does that leave an economy, whether it be a nation or the globe? Everybody's going to get priced out here. Demand destruction's already hitting quite a few things. And if you think you're going to buy electric car and just zoom on without the gas. Well, there's lithium shortage, so there's a battery shortage, and you're going to be way in line for, it looks like, 3 years until they can get battery production back up to where it might meet some sort of demand from today. Now, what will the demand be like in 3 years from now? So wherever you look, it's just, the system we have right now is not going to continue to work. It's going to break down completely before it gets restructured. So this shift over to electric automobiles, it's not going to work at this juncture. There's shortages everywhere to even produce the automobiles. Even the most basic thing in an electric car, the battery, not there. Base materials not there. So electric gravitics next, perhaps. Moving over to New Hampshire. Cyber attack affecting school milk supplies. Again, it's about the food. Now you're intertwining the cyber attack with food shortages. Then you'll see why El Salvador is suspending import tariffs, which rolls right back to what China was trying to do also. Suspend the import tariffs so they could get the wheat into the wheat growing regions. And if we jump over to Syria, banning some of the foodstuffs that they're going to export. Now here's the list: garlic, onions, potatoes, butter, oil, and eggs. Even last month, it was just one country, and now it's 2, now it's 5, now it's 10. And the list is going to continue to grow as food exports get cut off around the planet, as countries want to save their own political necks, for a better term. Now here's the outlier. An oak tree in Russia, 198 years old. That is insane how old that tree is. Was disqualified from European Tree of the Year. So the honors were given to a 400-year-old oak tree in Poland. And the reason I did this story is acorn bread. Has anybody ever tried to produce foodstuffs from acorns? Different varieties of acorns, some incredibly bitter. What's the preparation? How to dehydrate it? How much can you really add? If you're going to try to eat a 100% piece of acorn bread, you're not going to have very good luck. Too bitter. But a challenge here. Can you find acorns near you? And do you know how to process the acorns in your area to produce something to eat? And I do talk a little bit about wild foraging and the economy and how we're going to move through this food insecure part of civilization chapters in history on Mini Ice Age Conversations podcast. How to prepare your families, get more grand solar minimum prepared and secure during these food lean times. Anywhere podcasts are hosted across the net, make sure you click and subscribe for your favorite podcast host, Mini Ice Age Conversations, and also Storable Foods, My Patriot Supply, and Adapt 2030. That link's in the description box below, 25-year shelf life. All of the images, stories, graphs, pictures also are in the description box below the video, so you can chase down and do your own research on what I have presented tonight. I do thank you for watching. Hope you got something out of the video, and I'll see you next time.